Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 21st Century Renaissance podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michael Lopiano, and I am joined today by my two guests, Victoria and Peter Gončar. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
We are happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too. Yeah, it's great to be able to have this in person this week. Everyone, Victoria and Peter are two individuals who are very dear to my heart. We met not too long ago under some serendipitous circumstances, but we immediately connected on their projects, right? Victoria and Peter are dedicating their lives and their work, their active pursuits to making the world a more beautiful place. They're engaged in several publishing initiatives through either both writing and through illustration. They work in interior design together, and and they're also launching a fashion line as well, if I understand correctly. So all of these projects within the context of beauty is our topic for today. So I want to start by getting to know you guys a little bit, or getting to know you guys in the context, I guess, of the show, right? I mean, we've met before, but so how did you get started, I suppose, working in creative pursuits like this? How did you come to, say, interior design?
That's more about you first, I think.
Yeah, actually, I can say that I'm in art sphere since my childhood, I think.
Okay.
So I always was like in art schools or something like this. And I educated as an architect. So I worked as an architect for a while, and after also a 3D art teacher. So interiors, it was for me after architecture. It was like good opportunity to be able to travel and have remote work, because with architecture you need to be at one place. It's better to be there to do something. Yeah, and now we are mostly in our concept design for interiors and visualizations of exteriors and interiors also.
Like from my side, it was I was educated in completely different area, and there was time when I just tried to figure out what to do, or like to have some work that would that I would like at least. And it just turned out somehow that I first started to do drawings with Victoria, then also visualizations, and I do like it. So now we work together.
Okay,
it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I taught him. I'm a teacher, so but he's really good in this.
She's like a strict but good teacher.
Okay. So is that? Did you guys meet under some circumstances did you like go to an art class and then start to learn together? How did you start to? Well, how did you start teaching him how to draw and such?
It wasn't Turkey, I think.
It was like I mean some 3 years ago.
Okay.
So it was just
interesting. Okay.
Already in marriage, everything like that.
Okay. So you both had already met. You were already married, and then several years into your relationship, you decided to start doing this together.
It was a situation like I had a lot of, usually like for 2 years, I think, I work on project basis.
Okay.
This work, and it was the time when I had just extremely amount of work.
Okay.
And it was also drawings and visualizations. So drawings was easy to, and the easiest way to taught something, because it's 2 different programs, and one of them is more difficult, I should say. And one of them it's more like you don't need too much time to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, to study it. And
Yeah, it was like yeah, with the COVID times, and I had this remote job with like social media for a school of English.
Okay.
That I originally was a teacher there. It is in St. Petersburg, but then I just continued to do social media for them. I didn't really like that work, and but even with that, like I had a lot of free time, and I saw
And I
her
know.
working like a lot, and like I need to do something because I didn't have like any particular skills that would be really useful that I could like offer to the to the market, but I had her who could teach me, and like she has a lot of work.
Yeah.
I can take part of this work, so to balance. That's how I think I entered the market.
Interesting.
The market, I mean, like
the
profession.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it turned out, yeah, that I like it.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting, right? That's sounds somewhat similar to, well, I guess sort of the recent course of my relationship with Oksana, right? So I still work in this area of teaching, and I write and I read and I do things like this, but transitioning in this post-COVID era into trying to do things online, and a lot of what I'm learning about social media or sort of developing my outreach in these areas is in large part thanks to some of the experience that she's gained over the past several years, right, running her business online. Okay, so you both got involved with concept design, right? You learned from Victoria how to do this.
Well, actually, she makes the design.
Okay.
I'm more of like how to say this, more on a technical side.
Yeah, actually, in airport you have a lot to do in both in designing to create something and to build it in these programs like a 3ds Max or something. You need just enough time to build something, and yeah, it's great now that we usually combine our work, but sometimes he can I create something showed him how it will be look like, or some ideas, and we are like in a programs we started to work. Usually he and I'm finished this work to make the last part of it. So it's like usually it goes like this, I think.
So just so I can get a sense of I guess how this dynamic works. So it'll be something like you come up with a central design. You kind of have some sort of inspiration. You come up with an initial model, you build that kind of initial model, and then you bring that over to Peter, and Peter looks at some different aspects of it and says, okay, what if we do maybe something like this? Does he have a kind of editorial role, or does he ask you questions about certain parts of it? How does that dynamic work there?
I would say that like she creates the design. She like has this picture in her mind. We have usually like it is a space, either it's an apartment, an office building, or maybe something from outside, and she creates the design, how it will look like, and then she like passes me the information of what models I should use, how should I build the scene, because in these programs you you build everything. You put this couch here, you maybe modify it, you build this, but then she how to say, makes it, gives it a final touch, and also
you need to do just things like to use lightware in 3D space and render it, so make that space like kind of a picture.
Okay.
So that's actually a lot of time for one.
Yeah. This sounds like it. So when you are coming up with your initial designs, are you doing that largely by hand? Are you sort of drawing this out on paper? Are you working directly in the computer? Like, what does this sort of initial process of creation look like for you?
Actually, it depends of,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly it's now. Sometimes I can, if I, for example, have some examples of materials,
Mm-hmm.
I use pictures, like
Okay.
photos or something, and sometimes I for me usually it's better to express myself like with some visual material things, not just by not verbal.
Okay.
So sometimes I can imagine something and I need to draw it to Peter.
I see.
So I just make some like sketches to show him.
Okay.
But the project starts to design. Usually, I do a lot of things in my mind. So
Okay.
it's usually I need. That's why I like.
Sometimes I'm looking at her and she's like, "No, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm designing." Inside her head.
Yeah.
I just sometimes can see it like this, and it's a big space inside.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine
Like Sherlock.
everything. You
Yeah.
can imagine everything with details, and you just usually, or sometimes as I in this field more than 10 years, I have a lot of ideas. Usually, it's just like you have them inside, or you see some like you saw something somewhere, and I have some like a lot of pictures in my laptop, or just sometimes you have some I don't know like materials what you was inspired by them and you want to add them to some projects, so it kind of like compiling pictures and like make some sketches, but mostly pictures and in mind.
Interesting. Okay, so there's sort of this continual ideation process that it's sort of always going on inside you, something like that. And sometimes you sort of arrive at these moments where you're like, oh, I got to get this out somewhere. And sometimes you draw that, and sometimes you'll do that on the computer or something like that. But then you show it to Peter, and then over time you sort of have these different ideas that then you build into kind of a larger composite. And then Peter goes through this phase. Let's say, for example, in your current projects where you're realizing some of these design concepts for. For example, you've started to work recently with this particular, I guess, Austrian client.
Yeah.
And so Peter then goes through the rendering and the realization in the computer framework to a larger degree in order to deliver this kind of finished multi-layer representation over to your client. Did I understand that process correctly?
Yeah, mostly, yes.
Okay.
She also does all this.
Okay.
Like, because we just look at what time we have and who can do in which particular time. Like, if it is like, for example, there are, let's say, 2 projects and we need to do both here and there, I can start building the scene in this, for example. Let's say it's exterior, I can build the landscape, I can build the initial building, and then pass it to her, and she will finish it with building different other shapes and materials as well, and lighting and everything. I will at that time start with the second one.
Okay. So you're almost like, if I'm imagining this digital landscape with this software, you're almost like, if you're doing a house, right? You're doing the interior of a house. You build kind of the framework of the house based on the specifications of the space that's provided to you, like what you said, landscape, the landscape, or the walls, the room divisions, things like that. And then Victoria comes in and she's worked through some of these interior design concepts, and then she applies them onto the space, more or less.
No, it's so like it depends on the project, because usually it's with exteriors. We have strict project from architects, so I don't have an opportunity to design something there, because it should be built like this. But in this company with my colleague from Austria, it's mostly that we work with interiors. I can make a concept design, so usually it's design from my side or from Armin, our colleague from Austria, and usually we make it together, or I alone, like me alone, doing this. So with exteriors, you just have a project, and it should be really like a perfect match with the project.
Okay.
With interiors, it's more free to design something. But sometimes we have like different projects, just one interior, or maybe building and interiors in this building, or like just building. It can be depends on the project.
Okay. So it depends on, say, who the actual client or what the project is. So sometimes clients come to you and they have it, say, more. They have a specific idea in mind, and they're like, well, we really just want you to execute this idea that we already have. But sometimes, for example, with the case of this Austrian client, and I'll ask you about this in a moment, the client gives you more creative control over a particular dimension of it. Like, hey, come up with your own concept. I want to see how you. I like the way you design things. I like the way that you come up with ideas or how you're inspired. I want to see the way that you what you have to come up with for this space.
This is really. I should say that usually with this Austrian guy, we make projects for it's for sailing.
For ceilings.
No, sailing.
So he has a like visualization studio and some architectural companies mostly contact him to make these beautiful pictures. For selling apartments, buildings, everything.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the purpose of the concept is to say, okay, we're real estate. We want people to move into these apartments, but in order to aid them in the sort of visualization process of them living in that apartment, we would like you to come up with hypothetical designs of what the apartment might look like when they move in, that sort of design is possible. Maybe they could also take that design and try to realize it themselves.
Yeah, in this situation, so I worked as an interior designer for years, and when you have a client, like who will live where, so you make a tailor-made design project by person. So now it's mostly like this. And for me it's better because of it's not always really easy like to build something for someone, and now I have opportunity to just be creative and to make this beauty without this part of like, because usually need to go for like to this apartment while it's in a construction process. You need to talk with guys who are like making like tiles and also all these things. It's really actually a lot of time, and and the creative part in this whole project, it's not like for a whole this time. It's just like one part. So now I technically have just only this part. And that's it.
So the part where you go and take a look at stuff and then realize the concept. Do you think that with this particular relationship you have with this say Austrian real estate developer and such, is there this sort of possibility in the future that they would bring you in to realize the designs, like come and actually make some of these interiors according to your specification? Is that something that they would ask you to do?
I think it could be. But usually it's not it doesn't work in this way, but it can be.
Interesting.
It will be nice. But now it's really great to, at least for me, to work with exteriors, with buildings, because as an architects, we have always this, not all of them, me personally, and this guy, he is also architect and engineer. And you always want to be attached to some kind of buildings, because interiors is also really nice and beautiful, but you have some special love for constructing buildings.
I see. Okay. So specifically with respect to how they look on the outside, right? How the building actually goes up, how it stands, things like that.
I think about this design process and like asking us to do something there. I think it's interesting that maybe you will not be, in realizing it in real life. Maybe somebody will make it, but based on your design. Like remember this, let's say, bar in the office. That was your design, and who knows if they build this, and maybe someday you can go there and you see like your design there.
Yeah.
For example, it
So-
was a bad situation. It was we had a project from designer, and we need to like it. A purpose was to just build it in 3D space, 3D space. So and we made something not just based on project, something from our side, and in the end, the designer wanted to build it like this. So now how he explained.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, we are waiting for it will be a nice bar on a really high level in the Austrian mountains.
Because you know if you make designs for apartments and if people would like to like realize to in real life this, you like barely can go into their apartments to see. But if it is like a public space,
Yes.
then you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's that's a good part to design public spaces.
Yeah. You can actually see
Yeah,
if
you
they go ahead.
if
And,
they- yeah, exactly.
Have you been involved with a lot of these public space projects?
What?
With some,
Like
already.
design of public spaces, for example.
Yeah,
Like
like mostly offices or
Bars.
offices. Yes, bars. There's
Restaurants.
the restaurant for the office workers.
Yeah, some
okay.
office
Lobbies
yeah,
in like let's say it may be for this Estonia company mostly lobbies, like an apartment building but with the lobby, and
or office building with lobby. Yeah.
yeah, or office. But if it's like apartment building but it has a lobby, so it's not like technically some restaurant or office, but it's the place that's a part of an apartment building, but that you can go into, like you can see.
Okay. Yeah. I imagine if you just sort of come up with apartment designs all the time, it's pretty difficult to, like you said, knock on the door and be like, "Hello, can we see how much of our design you implemented?" Yeah, I can understand that.
Inspector.
Yeah. Inspection. Yeah. So one of the questions and one of the reasons I was so interested in having you guys on the podcast, right, is there's this question today that a number of people, right, in online spaces ask that are particularly critical of. I can think of very recently deceased one of the conservative critics from the UK by the name of Roger Scruton had this particular critique, and it's that the modern world, or at least the contemporary world, or the way that we have designed the human world that we inhabit, has largely, and this is Roger Scruton, I think he says it this way, we have decided to live as though beauty did not matter. Is I think the way he poses this question. And one of the principal concerns of many of the, say, doers or creative types, patrons, princes, sort of institutional figures and leaders of the Renaissance, especially the Italian Renaissance, got on board with this educational movement, the Renaissance humanist educational movement, that elevated beauty to a high standard in public life. One of these sort of, you could look in the visual arts and treatises, individuals like Leon Battista Alberti's della pittura, so on painting, right, or the rediscovery of ancient architectural treatises, right? Our word architecture specifically has to do with how do you construct arches? How do you construct curved buildings on this sort of trajectory shape? And what we see in the Renaissance is this turn away from more angular forms. This is one of the great complaints of many thinkers in the Renaissance, that what they referred to as Gothic ways of doing things, so Gothic architecture, and actually Gothic handwriting, right? They didn't like earlier generations' handwriting because they thought it was too sort of squashed together and angular and not particularly attractive, right? That what they emphasized was a greater emphasis on the curve or rounded features, or right, you sort of see like we look out the window now, right, of our apartments, more naturally inspired designs, right? An emphasis on beauty as it is manifest in nature and not necessarily in kind of angular shapes and such. And the idea, I guess, for them was that the entirety of Renaissance education was about improving the human dimensions of society. Can we educate people to live more prosperous lives? Can we teach people ways to live that will keep them on the good side of fortune, or minimize sort of the drawbacks of encountering negative fortune or bad luck or something like that? And so one of these dimensions was to make public spaces, was to make life more beautiful, make speech more beautiful, make architecture more beautiful, right? Painting and such. Right? This is what people tend to associate with the Renaissance, is this artistic movement. One of the dimensions that I suppose is missing from a lot of the ways that we design things today is that we design things very in a utilitarian fashion, right? Well, we need places for people to live, so throw up whatever kind of box, right? Build, for example, we live here in Krakow. Build Nova Huta, right? The sort of the brutalist design, kind of communist, maximize space, minimize costs at all costs. That's something that is, there are still bits of this left over here in Poland, certainly. You both are originally from Russia, right? The Soviet period of architecture is just even anti-beauty, right? Let's destroy the beautiful things. Kaliningrad, which is very close to us, right? Mm-hmm. That had so much of this early modern Baroque, sort of northern Renaissance style architecture, right? The former city of Königsberg. After the Second World War, purposefully many of these beautiful buildings were taken down and replaced with, Soviet concrete boxes. So my question here, and the reason I'm sort of introducing this framework, is to say, do you think that beauty is something that is important for us? And the second part of that is, why, if that's the case?
Actually, that's a good thing you want to cover here, I think. I believe, like you already mentioned, this controversy, not controversy, but I mean different sides between utilitarian and beautiful. Yeah. Because I had this thought that currently the world tries to be more comfortable, and that is like just one perspective to do everything. And I see that the perspective of beauty is more valuable, and the one that can create more make society healthier, and each person healthier, not only in terms of physical health, more, I think, even more on their inner, spiritual, soul-wise layers of human being. Because, let's say, what is beautiful? Yes, we can speak about this, that there may be different tastes in different areas of life, but I think that that moment when something is that beautiful, that is breathtaking, you just have no words to describe it, that you feel more of life in this particular moment. It's like when you get absorbed by this beauty. It's like you're completely in it. You don't think about past, future. You're in the moment. You're like living life when you see in beauty. That is, I think, the crucial point here, because like we want to live full lives. At least I believe that it is something that is better for feeling for each other, for each person. It's like that is the vision. I don't know if it's a complete answer to what you asked.
Yeah.
But yes, kind of like that. Do you have some thoughts?
I can add about architectural part or designing spaces around people who live there, because I really like a concrete.
Okay.
But I understand that sometimes, even the concrete buildings, they can be more warm and be more like kind of have natural feeling. And this is a problem to build something really suitable for human being. It should be like this. So it's sometimes it's easy just to make it not in a proper way for living. And good architecture, it's about to build something like, even it's in modern, even because I really like old buildings, historical ones, and I like to build to create something with concrete, but I would live in a historical building.
I see.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's the way of living just daily life. It actually really have beauty, have this like impact on this, and it should be, because without beauty, I think it's like empty to live. Living. So, and especially in a daily life, because we live and do usual things in buildings, in like we have some neighborhoods or we have some like streets, whatever, and in nature it will be easier for us to live. But as we started one day build something, so it needs to be more to a natural beauty way. So it can be different in styles, in materials, but I think the purpose is that people who try to build something for like other people, they need to think about comfortable living there, and just
It's, I think, it maybe not the matter of style, because again, it may be as like this. We recently took the book from this manga museum.
Okay.
They have library and about Japanese architect Kengo Kuma, and he's about minimalism.
Okay.
But that minimalism, that he that's interesting phrase, that he's trying to use less of architecture. So the architecture to be the less of it, so that the building would be immersed into the nature. So like a person is inside the building, but they feel more of the nature.
They feel like they're maybe there's extra windows or open spaces or something.
Usually like that.
Okay, and it feels more open, like they're not trapped inside somewhere, but just kind of covered. Yeah.
But I think here is the thing is about beauty may be manifested differently, but that should be beauty. That is the thing.
I think maybe sometimes you can just feel is beauty or no.
Yeah.
Because it can be really different.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have this feeling that you like, it's kind of just feeling.
I believe that if every person would be sincere with themselves, like with their inner side, trying to not, how to say, act or feel as somebody wants them to feel, or, according to some fashion, I mean, but to like just to be sincere with themselves, they would feel the beauty, this resonation. As I said, when you see something and you just can't, you're like, okay, I'm disarmed.
Yeah, so there's this component to it, if I'm understanding this correctly, right? There's this component to beauty that, well, it overwhelms, but it overwhelms in such a way that it doesn't like push you away from it. It overwhelms, but it also sort of surrounds and takes you up into it. It gives you this experience of being taken up into whatever it is that you are beholding. So there's that, like, sort of from a visual perspective, right? If you're looking at it, okay. But then there's this other component, like with these, like when you're speaking about this Japanese kind of minimalist element, or when you're designing, even if you're designing something in concrete, right? That there is a way that there is a form you can give it that makes you feel connected rather than removed from nature, or rather than removed from life in a certain sense. Yeah, I think about this. Well, this is something I noticed, right? I'm originally from Connecticut in the United States, and the city that I've spent the most time in is New Haven, right? New Haven, Connecticut. It's relatively small, maybe around, well, when it's largely a college town, when there are a lot of students in the city, it's probably around 150,000 people. But most of it, right? Most of it. Well, okay, not most, but in the very center of the town, there are historic buildings, and they're quite nice, right? They're quite nice. Yale University is in the center of New Haven, Connecticut, and they have this sort of neo-Gothic, but right, for as much as the Renaissance criticized Gothic architecture, it is far, far more beautiful than many of the things that get put up today, right? But too, right, that sort of Gothic style architecture was still something that was done with beauty as an end in and of itself. It was supposed to, perhaps set people apart from sort of the humdrum of the other things they were doing. Sacred spaces very often, right? Sacred meaning set apart, saker. But still set apart in terms of some sort of sublime beauty, something like that. And so you do have that in the middle of New Haven. But most of New Haven indeed is, square after cube after box, right? A lot of the historic, very nice sort of brick, late 19th century, early 20th century kind of row houses have been taken down and replaced with parking lots, or, for example, I lived on a street called Orange Street in a historic building, right? I would always prefer to live in the historic buildings, specifically because they have some of these touches, right? There's sort of, they have crown molding or little sort of floral designs or some kind of neoclassical elements to it, something like that. But, then on either side was kind of a parking lot, and then a very large brutalist concrete box. And it'd be sort of also, because these historic buildings were allowed to have been taken down, it also meant that the historic buildings, even though they were nice, they lacked a context, right? It wasn't built, like one of the reasons I love living here in Krakow is you can walk through districts and you can go, I see that the architects here, it's, many architects work together, obviously, to build these different neighborhoods, but they had this sort of theme. They understood, right? There was a sort of community between these builders and architects. And so there is a common sort of style, even though the buildings differ from one another, there's a common style that unites this neighborhood. New Haven, my city, was probably like that at some point. But now there's only just kind of a few of those historic buildings left, and they're absent the context. So not only is there kind of this eclectic, scattering of parts, but the new stuff that's been added in is either nothing, empty space, parking lot, or giant concrete block with no design features to it, right? There's a difference between, it's not necessarily that it's made out of concrete. Art Deco looks wonderful and lots of concrete is involved. It's not the material, but but a question of form.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw you thinking there. But yeah. Anyway, but my point there is one of the reasons that I love living here versus, I mean, I still love my city. I still love parts of it, but there is you can just kind of take a break from what you're doing here and go for a walk and look at medieval, Renaissance, 19th century, Baroque architecture, right, in all kinds of different forms, and have this, connected kind of component with nature, all the green spaces there are here. And it does sort of, it just makes you just like being alive, maybe a bit more. It's less sort of passively anxiogenic, right? You don't feel like, you walk around, you spend time looking at this stuff, it just kind of makes you feel better, something about it. You know it when you see it.
Like, you haven't been to St. Petersburg?
I have, yeah.
You have been?
I have when I was 18 or 19 years old, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of feeling that you described. Because in St. Petersburg, you can walk and walk and walk and walk. And as you said about architects working together, we call these like architecture ensembles.
Okay.
So they're like kind of districts that are built with something common thought, I don't know, or idea about how to build this beautifully. And that is also, I think, the thing about it's the meaning you put into doing something. Like old buildings, we may like them because like they are old. This is some connection to the past. But I think that's also the matter of when people do this and they put something into it, put their vision, their effort, their, I don't know, passion again. And we have these now. I believe to much lesser degree, but like with this Kengokuma or these marvelous Zaha Hadid buildings, because people have this passion to put into these. That's also like when you have something. At least I speak from our side. You can buy some I don't know, piece of decoration or whatever from person who made it by themselves. Or you can buy the fab from the factory.
Yeah.
And it can actually look almost the same.
Yeah,
but you feel different.
But you feel,
And that is also, I think, the thing about the past, that people try to put this into what they did. Here we can go deep into some other part, I think, but technically they had this like orienteer that they attached them to, and they tried to translate it into what they did.
Like this sort of reminder that there is a person behind, it's almost behind, but also like in what was made, right? Like a human hand, for example, right? This example, a human hand made this. So this has, right, this form, right, is almost like, has the imprint of a human hand. There is therefore some, formal unity between a human being and this artifact, representation, whatnot, that is unique. And only an object that has been made or fashioned, a representation that has been fashioned by a human hand, can have that sort of symmetry with respect to a human being, right? And that's there, and you're sort of reminded of that whenever you are beholden to whatever piece of art or piece of craft, something like that you might come into contact with. Yeah, I noticed too, right, when you guys speak about your own architecture, right, you're interested in your own designs, like you have this attachment to going back and seeing what you did. You want to know how does this actually play out? I'm not sure, right? Like if you're just kind of, okay, you know, got to design another cube, whatever, kind of just, here it is, here's a cube, here's a box, there you go. With that same sort of, oh, I wonder what it looks like. I wonder how it's held up after how many years, right? I wonder if that same component would remain.
Yeah, and in my case, I always think about create beauty. Like even it will be just a really minimalistic concrete interior, or it can be almost a classic one. That's one of the purpose is to build beautiful space for people to live there. And yeah, I think it's about buildings. It's really important to keep all these historical buildings, and I think it's nice. It's a high level for architects to implement some new, really minimalistic, modern art into this space. And sometimes it can be not nice, like often.
Yeah, modern art, yeah, especially. I've seen some of the stuff that pops up in Vienna.
Sometimes you understand what people, they try to, because we still want to create some like modern things, and it's really a good skill to build something what will be in harmony with the rest, and it's not always the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's good to go to explore more new styles or new lines, new materials, but it's important to know about your past and to keep it, because it's like we are not from nowhere, like maybe, but we have some history.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we need just to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, every single one of our ancestors, going back, 3 billion years to the earliest, emergence of life, successfully lived and reproduced and carried on, right? And so every single person who is alive today is a result of that 3 billion year history, right? And then, who knows what was before that, but, at least in that respect, right? That is something that we bring with us. And sort of we see more recent, manifestations of that, but, everything that surrounds us gestures to some sort of lineage, right? So there's something to being reminded of that, rather than sort of just living your life in as efficient and utilitarian a way as possible. Yeah. So I'm interested as well, right? Because your main work is that you have these architectural projects, you have these interior design projects, and you work on these together. However, your commitment to beauty and to projects that help pursue beauty extend beyond this work. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about some of that. For example, you have a number of publications that you guys are working on currently.
Yeah, currently we are working on publishing my book of short stories and poetry.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it will be first in Russian.
Okay.
I have this translation to English, but I still need to proofread the book.
Okay.
And it takes time and other resources.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the pieces I've wrote. I've written through many years. I believe last 10 years. So I compiled them together. And the book already has the cover made by Victoria.
Okay, all right.
Because she, everything visual-wise, it's her like area.
Mm-hmm.
And she made a beautiful cover, again, like based on the Chinese-Japanese paintings.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, we even used Japanese ink and
Japanese ink.
yeah.
Interesting.
So it's like hand painted cover. Yeah, and the book is called The Way.
The Way. Okay,
Yeah,
like the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you see, you would see on the cover that
Yeah.
it also translates the same.
Okay.
meaning, yeah.
And that's interesting how I came up with the name, because I had, I think, a couple of different options before, but as it got closer to the finishing of all
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
this name
Mm-hmm.
came up to my mind, and I think it's the best one
Mm-hmm.
to represent what is inside, like the meaning of
Mhm.
all these pieces
Mhm.
written. And also I think it's kind of, as all these things that I wrote
Mm-hmm.
are from the long period of time,
Mm-hmm.
it's also kind of the way to see,
I see,
to
okay.
see of how it transformed.
Yeah. So not only is it a collection of short stories, but it is a collection of short stories that have been written over a sizable period of time.
Yeah,
So how many years approximately?
about 10, I think. Yeah.
So 10 years. Okay, that's a considerable portion of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I started writing, I think, in my teen years,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say the things that I wrote that time, it was kind of experimental.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, let's call it like this. I didn't include them.
Okay. So not the earliest ones.
Yeah, I see some. I think there is some period in the past from which I'm like looking at them and see,
Mhm.
okay, this I can present to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And but I wrote from time to time, like out of inspiration, in a
Mhm.
burst of inspiration, I need to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And like through these 10 years, it's like what I have is in this book. So it's not that much,
Mm-hmm.
but still it's a book of this way
Mhm.
up to this
Mhm.
time of today.
Okay. So I understand too, right? You guys have also traveled quite considerably, right? It was
Mhm.
in Turkey that you actually started to work together on
Mhm.
architecture and such.
Mhm.
But as far as this East Asian influence, if I remember correctly, you were teaching English in China for a number of years.
Mhm.
Do your travels sort of play into some of this, the inspiration for the design of this book or the short stories?
Mhm. Like that's a good part.
Maybe they
To
do.
cover.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because it's like a Pandora box.
Yeah.
This China, because we lived in China, yes, topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually, if you open it, that's
Okay.
your fault. That's your fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to be short, it's just like our second hometown.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was really surprised us.
Okay.
Yeah, like you live in this Western world,
Mhm.
and you behave in this, information field, and in this, I don't know, in this situation.
Yeah.
In this environment.
Yeah.
And China is somewhere there,
Yeah.
and the country exists. You know something about the culture, but when you
maybe
come there,
grow up with
Jackie Chan movies. You watch Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah.
As a child. And then you go there, and you have this experience, and it like somehow during these 1.5 years we lived there, it like, embedded, I don't know, in us so strong that now we like sometimes,
We really miss
oh,
this.
we miss China, we want to go
Really
there.
interesting.
Sometimes I have just a dream that I'm in Shanghai and kissing the earth.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's like about the life part of this.
Yeah.
But if we cover the creative part of the thing, I believe that it gave us something. Like apart from, let's say, there are some pieces that I wrote there. There is, I think, after China, especially, we have this, strong interest. Again, I wouldn't say that this is generalization. It's because it has some common patterns of East Asian culture. Because there is, the many of them are based on Confucianism and Buddhism, Shinto in Japan. So there are some cultural things that speak to us, and I think from that also grows the cover for the book. I wouldn't say that there are any particular topics that would remind you of East Asia when you read the book, but
like underlying patterns or sort of ways of maybe perceiving things, but not necessarily like, East Asian content, like, here's an excerpt from, the Analects or something like that, but just sort of ways that you experienced living or perceiving the world that sort of became infused with, if you look back, right, you didn't do it necessarily consciously, but looking at the stories themselves, you can sort of see those patterns of living or seeing the world manifest in the stories.
It's anyway you keep it, this feeling to live in a different culture. It's completely different.
Okay.
Like I think it's a big impact for our lives and our like some interests. Yeah.
But that's also this thing about not particularly China or Turkey or wherever. It's about that wherever you go, wherever you are, it somehow can, again, because of you being here, there are some situations that you can reflect on just because you are here. Like, I remember one time we rented an apartment in St. Petersburg. It was not the best district on Zvezne, and it was like we just wanted to live by our own, and in many aspects, it was not the best time for us, and I always questioned, did we really need to rent it out, or we could live in the our parents' place, because we had some opportunities to live there. But then I remember that I have some pieces that are really paint the picture, the real picture of what I wanted to say. Because there are some pieces that I like all of what I wrote.
Yes, yeah.
It's like sometimes I read this and I'm like, oh yeah.
It's a product of love, right?
I like this.
Yeah.
But some of them are have some special to them.
Yes.
And when you understand that one of those pieces were written in those circumstances, just because one day I walked from work to the apartment we rented and I saw something that gave me some thoughts that I processed, and then this piece of poetry was born. So that's interesting how it works.
Yeah.
And again, in China, in Turkey, it also was like that. some subtle influence of the place on you,
Yeah.
and that's always interesting to discover.
Yeah.
It's like you write something, and then you're like, okay, that
Yeah.
how this. Then you try to read it as though
Yeah.
it's not you who
Yeah,
wrote it.
yeah. Right. So there's this like process of almost seeing just how much of yourself changes or stays the same by stepping back from it, but also seeing how, as you change landscapes and how you move about time, right? How you move between cultures, how that sort of combines inside of you and then
Yeah.
gets represented in the art form.
Mhm.
Interesting.
And have you had a time in India to write something? No? Because I just think about
Don't
what
think
for example, we've been in India.
In India as well.
With
Okay.
backpacks and all these things.
Yeah.
So it was really tough traveling.
Yeah.
But that time you understand that, like when you've been there
Yeah.
in this situation, you don't need you don't have opportunity to create something because you just walk everywhere.
Yeah.
Just with backpacks and tents, and it's not really place when you can just have time to write something because you have some like things about survival. But you understand that even after this, you have like after years or maybe after 1 month, whatever, you have something that you saw. Actually, I had some sketches from India. I even had some like kind of, I don't know where when I needed, but it was really difficult to travel there. But you still have some impact from this culture, and we actually really enjoyed this, and it was really interesting time. And I remember actually, I have some sketches.
Okay.
So it was like just you. It was sometimes you have touch, and you like can reflect after time and do something about this, or maybe not just particularly about this, but with something from that experience. But also it was for me just like Taj Mahal, I just sketched it. Or it was, I remember it was difficult day and it was a bus like in this difficult road for me because I feel sick like, immediately. But it was so beautiful woman in
Sorry?
in Sari. It was
Sorry. Okay.
yeah, and I had just I don't know how to say it in English. Black
You coal?
Coal?
No.
Ugel.
Coal. Yeah.
Coal.
So I just made it. So it was really I think it was white sari with some yellow flowers. But she
Stood.
To-
You're good. Yeah. No, we're good.
She stood in this strange, really old bus.
Yeah.
Somewhere in India, somewhere around, I don't know, I think it was around Goa, somewhere in the jungle.
Yeah.
And it was just one moment, but I was so inspired. So I thought about this picture, like after years. And that day or next day, I just made some like sketch to remember. And because I was so inspired in these difficulties to just it was. I mean, I talk about it to remember, especially now for myself, because we just talk about China and how we made something there or no. And that's good to always keep this, to seek this beauty. And you just can have it somewhere. You never know, from some like inspiration can come from everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting sort of listening to the two of you, right, talk about these experiences as well, right? Because you can hear from the way that you also sort of mark or conceptualize your own lives is that it's not just, hey, a span of time and kind of random things happening, but there are these moments that are punctuated by beauty and inspiration, and well, the inspiration that's derived from beauty or living nature, living in some other configuration of culture and peoples and such like that. So it's very interesting to listen to the way that you yourselves sort of talk about this in person, and to think about what that might be like to experience reading some of your publications. So certainly this short story and poetry collection with your illustrations when it comes out, right, will be very yeah. Do you have an idea when this is? I think because I know you've also already published a collection of poems,
Yes.
Drops, right?
Drops is what they call now micro poetry.
Micro poetry,
Yeah.
okay.
Japanese.
It's haiku. It's,
Like haiku, okay.
But, well, to be more on a, like technical side, the haiku has its own rules
Yes.
of composing, and also usually the subjects that you cover are limited
Okay.
somehow. But still, maybe we can use this word for I don't know. So it's usually
similar to haiku.
Similar to haiku style, because again, haiku is only 3 lines, but there could be like 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 the most. It was the time that I tried to do some writings, to post my writings on Instagram. That is mostly, I think, adapted to these shorter things, at least to try something there. And I composed these short pieces and posted them on my Instagram. They're still there, even though lately I'm not that active on Instagram to post, but still, you if you want, you can go there and see there. And then I combine them into an ebook. But then I'm like, why only ebook? I can also make it printed version.
Yeah.
And printed version is on Amazon, and it's already there for I think a year, a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I have this.
Okay. All right.
Some of our friends who have this book, they told us that sometimes in 2 or 3 sentences you have so.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, you have
there's so much. Yeah.
Much to think, but like 2 or 3 people even told us that sometimes it's not easy to read like a whole book.
Yeah.
Because you just read 2 sentences and you need to think about it.
Okay.
So because it's a lot of, it's actually different things from like different aspects of our living.
Yeah.
But mostly it's really quite a philosophical ones.
Okay.
And you just need to have time with this.
Okay. So it's sort of philosophical insights or insights into beauty, something like that, right? In these sort of short poetic form, right? The emphasis is on sort of brevity and succinctness. That there's that you can just sort of take a look at, but not meant to just be like, all right, let me just read through this whole thing and breeze through it. But it's meant to be read slowly. It's meant to be processed and sort of thought about over a longer period of time.
I like in Peter's poetry and style of writing. And sometimes he can show you just one moment of something, like just without the context, and you will have like different things. You will have you could imagine like the whole concept, or you can just be touched with just with words, because sometimes it's about some like I don't know, some feeling or some deep thought or something like, and sometimes it's like he shows you something and he lets you be with this.
Okay.
I want just to warn that not of all this is about beauty.
Okay.
There are a lot of, I think, painful moments.
Okay.
Pain for this world, I mean.
Okay.
But it's again, I think we can attach the concept of beauty to these as well, because pain of lack of beauty.
Yeah.
because of the lack of beauty.
Yeah.
Like that.
I know.
And yeah, and love. And as you said, that this you used this word brevity, right? To like compact, yeah, it's
Yeah,
compact, and because of again the short stories that I had, they're also kind of really short.
Yeah.
Most of them were 1-2 pages.
Okay.
And what I work on now on longer stories, so, it's like for a new book that will, I don't know when,
Okay.
but it may be sometimes a little bit difficult for me because I used to, have this, danced meanings, danced image, and mostly it's about image in written form.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
So now I need to, you can't just paint, write an image for, 200 pages.
Yeah.
You need some, plot, some actions.
Yeah.
So now it's a little bit difficult for me to work in this field, but I want to have some, more bigger things.
Yeah.
And
And
ideas.
Children's books.
That's right. That's right. Your children's books too. I've seen this as well. Also with illustrations by Victoria.
Aliens, right?
Yeah, you. I showed you the one with the aliens. Technically, it was the first book I published.
Okay.
Like the first ever, because again, the COVID times were kind of interesting ones in terms of you try to you shouldn't allow yourself to just do nothing. You need to try, and we tried to do this book. It is. I can't say that this is the book that that uncovers the most of what we want to show to the world.
Yeah, it's
But
more for fun.
it's mostly for fun. I would say that it's let's say it's picture book.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of children book, but if you read it, you will see that again the patterns are those that I think adults can also relate to, and that was kind of an experiment. Yeah, just some idea in my mind. I tried to and it's funny that it was vice versa. I made some draft pictures of these aliens, and I showed to her. She made it.
Okay, I'll make it.
She made it beautiful.
Okay.
Compared to what I originally made. And
but it was your idea.
Like the idea.
It's actually unusual, but it was mostly your idea. So I just had this plot.
Yeah, I like this. I want them to look like this. Can you make it proper?
Okay. So it's like you've got your own living Mid-Journey AI at home, right? So you just go like, this is what I'm thinking. Can you go make it?
Yeah. Sometimes it's happened like this.
/imagine /Victoria. There you go. Enter the command. Image comes up.
Do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
But
So
we have one. Actually, we have first book for children, but it's still not published because it just requires more work.
Okay.
And actually, with this book, I finished the illustrations when we lived in China.
Okay.
But now I remade something. It's just perfect sentence. Yeah, and I remember we tried to print it in China, published it, but it was difficult with
ideological side of.
Okay. There are some limitations.
Too much magic.
I see. Oh, too much magic. Interesting. So they're like, no, you can't.
No.
We in China we don't believe in magic, says the government.
If it brings you money.
Okay.
In some, not
I like. We were sad that it's a lot of magic, but just based on the experience, maybe they expected to some communist ideas to be implemented.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't that the problem wasn't necessarily that there was magic, but that the magic also was not tied to communism.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like,
I see.
if this dragon would say some
Like
slogans,
isn't this so much better than when Chiang Kai-shek was in power? Like, the glorious People's Revolution is the greatest thing to have occurred, and I would know because I am a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, just, if, for example, Harry Potter or, I don't know, Frozen.
yeah, they sell Harry Potter.
Yeah,
but-
Yeah.
if it's already popular somewhere, they will print, publish it, and we have movies, so
Okay.
that's fine. So, but it's complicated to
Okay.
start there because
Okay.
we have it's with proofreading in Chinese.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah. But maybe we will publish it here on
Yeah.
Amazon, for example. in
Yeah. You can do the Chinese version on Amazon. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And yeah, that actually was our first, but usually it's still nice if you're an artist. You
Okay.
can make some paint
Okay.
for someone's birthday.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he actually had it free.
Okay. Like you can make it. Okay. So like.
But
Next
not-
time I will write you some piece of
Okay,
poetry
thank you.
There you go.
for the birthday.
Yes,
Five
I made this for you.
dances.
Yeah. I went through a phase. I wrote people letters. I wrote people letters a lot for their
Yeah.
birthday, right? And I would take time. I would sit down for like 4 hours and just be like, how could I encapsulate my relationship with this person into a letter, right? Rather than just be like, happy birthday, here's a gift card. I was like, I'm gonna sit down and really come up with this letter
But
thing.
you have.
I usually write.
It's actually different for me. I mean, like you have four paints from
Paintings?
paintings from me
Mhm.
Yeah.
for your birthday. It's one
Yeah.
of his portrait,
Portrait.
and one of them it was
4?
for
3, no?
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portrait, this, wow, I need to know the proper word in English. Last Supper.
The Last Supper. Okay,
But it's,
by Da Vinci. Yeah.
kind of symbolistic, and this one
Yeah,
for the
because
book.
he really likes some, magical words, and
Mhm.
we too. I mean, like me too. Yeah, but I thought to create
Mhm.
something special for him.
Mhm.
And usually I'm more like in abstract line to draw
Mhm.
something,
Mhm.
to paint. And it was difficult for me to make an illustration with oil paintings.
Okay.
It was a problem,
Okay.
but it was done. And I showed it to him, and actually just one painting
Mhm.
with just one picture from I just created this world. And he actually was inspired with this, and he wrote a story about it.
Okay.
So now it's a book, and I need to make illustrations.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So but anyway, I wouldn't leave it to someone to make it because it's
Mhm.
it's like
Mhm.
our own child.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it was and now we are working with second part because we want to print it like not one book but
Okay.
story.
So there are a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Yeah.
And but all of them connecting to, well, either they involve some elements of beauty and your inspiration by it, your travels, or the absence of certain values, say the absence of beauty or the
Mhm.
absence of love, and sort of the pain that reminds you perhaps of why those things are so valuable, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Could say.
So for our audience, right, who may want to take a look at this stuff themselves, Peter, they can follow you on Instagram and get a closer look at the publication side of things.
Yes, I think it's also good to visit the website.
You have a website too. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like maybe you will have this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. At the certainly everyone who's listening and watching, all of the information for Victoria and Peter will be found in the comments. Make sure you check out the comments to follow them along. But so they can follow you on Instagram.
And on Instagram, on my website, on
Okay.
Facebook.
Okay, Facebook as well.
I also have a page on this contact.
Contact, yeah. Okay, if anybody
If
is
you
on
have- if you're
Russian
on
social
Contact,
media,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
follow Peter on Contact, yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I visit them I'm not that active now in posting because I work
Okay.
mostly now on
Right.
writing,
But I
compiling
think,
everything.
on Facebook it's more like.
Mostly on Facebook.
More often on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again,
And at least you write something there, like.
on Facebook, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm more active on Facebook.
Okay,
actually
so you're
than
more active on
Instagram.
Facebook
But
as far as
still,
posts
yeah.
and writing and such.
Maybe I will revive some on Instagram. I
Okay.
don't. Well,
Yes.
I'm lost with words.
That's
yeah.
okay. So right. So publications primarily. Right, I know that your sort of writing endeavors are more visible through through Peter's side of things. But as far as visual side of things, for those of you who want to follow along, maybe with some of Victoria's sketches, her artwork, I know you post a lot of stuff with respect to some of your interior design concepts as well.
Not a lot actually.
Not a
but
lot.
Yeah, it's just because I'm not into this promotion in social media.
Okay.
So but yeah,
But you can see examples of it there.
yeah, and for me actually, I have this Instagram because of like if you are always travel or live somewhere, not at your hometown, for example, or like you have a lot of friends and you need to be like in a contact, and it's a good way to share your perspective of beauty. Yeah, and just keep in contact. And sometimes, mostly, I post something like, I really like photography and like to just capture some beauty.
Okay.
Yeah, again, about beauty.
Yeah.
So it's mostly not for promotion. It's just like.
But showcasing beauty
I
in
have
many
a lot
different
of projects,
forms.
but I just don't want to post them all the time because it's just,
Each in its season.
Yeah, I mean it's like mostly by inspiration. It's not some on a regular basis.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Very
sometimes
good.
I can actually make a picture to post something.
Okay.
And forget about it. I mean,
Okay. All right. The life of an artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Peter, Victoria, thank you so much for joining me today, for joining us today. Thank you for all that you do in helping us remember that living with beauty is not only something that might interest us or something we might want, but something that can also help make our lives better. So, thank you very much, certainly for all that you do. We're looking forward to seeing your projects come to fruition. And certainly, if all of you watching and listening, certainly please give a follow to Peter and Victoria, and you too can follow along in their beautiful endeavors. So, thanks very much for watching and listening today. See you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.